Hello class. In this video we're going to look at taking some line works, as I've already shown how to separate them out, how we can do other things like maybe changing the line weight of them without having to go back and re-render it. Some softwares you don't have much control over the line weights anyway, and sometimes you just don't want to take the time to re-render it. It's going to give us some more control over color as well that we looked at in the last video. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to turn off all my layers except for the line layer here, and I'm going to make sure I'm selected on that line layer I just pasted in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select, I'm going to go to color range, and I can select red as my color. Alternatively, I can just eyeball on the white because it's easier for me to select the white. And in this case, this fuzziness basically is saying how much leeway do I want to give. If it's down low, it means only take on that exact pixel, which I want to be close to. As it's higher, it says, well, not just white, but things that are close to white. And the higher this number is, the more leeway it gives. And it's useful in various situations. Here I've got pretty pure color, so it's not that bad. Just taking it off of 0 a little bit will help the fuzziness that happens around some of these angles. So I'm just going to say OK, and we can see, I can zoom in and see if it's OK. The reality is, see how this fuzziness happens here? I think I can do better than that, so I'm going to unselect this. I'm going to try again. Color range, I'm going to select here, and I can do a preview over here, like a quick mask, and I can see how well it's going to do it. And as I fuzz it up, you can see that I'm getting closer to my line work. So I could probably be pretty high, and I'm going to just now I've gotten just the line work selected. The reality is I selected white, so it's not that I have the red selected, which is I want the white selected. So I'm just going to go to select and select inverse. Barely looks like anything happened, but now I have the red selected. So that's a way of just selecting all the lines. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer by hitting this button, which I already have, so I'm not going to worry about it. And what I'm going to do is I can paint this any color I want. So I could change the line colors this way as well, alternatively to the video, and I'll show you that in a second. Or I can actually change how thick this is. So I can come here, I can go to select, and I can go to modify, and I can go to expand if I want to make the pixels bigger. Now if I always want to do a little bit, I'm just going to do 1, and actually it's going to do 1 on each side, so it's going to have a significant impact for line work. But I'm going to go expand by 1 pixel, and we can see now that the line work is much bigger. So if I select my color, and maybe I want my line to be like a brown like I had in the last video, I'm going to select brown as my foreground color there. I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, Foreground Color, and say OK. Oops, I have also everything else selected. That's because I forgot that I had transparency set. I can fix this later. But we can see we made it brown, and we can see ultimately that the line weights are much thicker. Alternatively, I can undo that. I could undo the expand step, and I could shrink it, although it might shrink to 0. So it's probably not going to work because I made it small, right? That's why I made it small. I could contract it by 1 pixel, and we can see it makes the line weight smaller. But in this case, since I started with a thin line weight, it's going to make it too small and look sort of awkward. So I'll go back to this. And I'm curious to see what it looks like thicker. So let's go modify, expand, by 1, and fill this in. What I'm going to do now is to sort of get rid of the background is I'll just control click on my file here, so I have the main thing, and I'm going to inverse this selection, select inverse, and that should just be the exterior brown, leaving me with the interior. And I can turn on my layers and see how that looks. I mean, that's pretty big line work there, and it looks sort of awkward in this current setup, but the reality is, depending on the rendering style, it might actually look quite well. And just like in shadows, what I really might have to do is I might have to reevaluate, as I add more stuff to this drawing, I might have to reevaluate how thick my line weights are, and I might have to reevaluate what my colors and how strong my line weights are. Now that I have it on this layer sort of independent, it sort of becomes even easier to adjust those things than when it had the white background, because now it's just lines, right? So I can like change transparency and sort of fade that in, but yet still make it like, hey, this is not a photoreal rendering. So again, there's lots of variations, and there's lots of variations because I pulled the lines out from the shadows, out from the materials, and now I can do a whole bunch of things with it. So there you go. We're going to continue to sort of look at other Photoshop things and other tricks that you might use in here. So keep following the videos.